좋은 실력으로 왜 미대는 맨날 떨어지냐?
아, 죽을래.
저는 이게 위조나. 부자인데 착하다니까.
진짜 니가 착한 거지. I'm deadly serious.
근데 지금 진짜로 이상한 게 뭔 것 같아.
Aloha, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man. And yesterday, Saturday, I was able to go ahead and see, finally, this opening weekend, Friday, well actually Thursday night this week, that, you know, we finally got the South Korean film over here in Hawaii, Parasite. And, you know, this is opened up only over at the Kahala Mall and I believe Ward Warehouse as well, you know, over at Consolidated. And I am shocked and appalled that Regal, both even Dole, even at least Dole or Highlands, Regal Theaters are not showing this movie, at least not yet. So hopefully by, you know, next week it'll open greater wide. Now this is the continued directorial, you know, movie of Bong Joon-ho. Now those of you who know that name, he is a great South Korean director, you know, that have done breakthrough movies, everything from The Host to most recently Snowpiercer, and then also, you know, Mother as well, South Korean movie called Mother. Now I know of The Host, and that was an incredible monster breakthrough movie with South Korea back from 2006, and Snowpiercer just a few years back with Chris Evans of all people. And most of his movies, I want to say that he is kind of reminiscent of a Western, a little bit with, you know, M. Night Shyamalan, in the fact that most of the time, most of his movies in South Korea tend to have a kind of a twist ending. Something that he is known for is giving an unexpected ending from all of his movies, you know. And even in the trailers on this movie, Parasite, he goes ahead and it's clearly stated, you think things are going one way and suddenly they mutate into another. And, you know, I would say that he is following very much in the footsteps of another great South Korean director, Ki Duck, or I'm sorry, Kim Ki-duk, who has been known for his kind of horror-esque movies, scary movies in, well, scary thriller movies in South Korea, which also seem to have kind of a twist ending, very much so like Bong Joon-ho. So if you like his work, definitely check out Kim Ki-duk. I think he was big during the mid-'80s, late 80s, and into the mid-'90s. You know, and he may have retired by now because I haven't seen or heard anything from him. But essentially, Bong Joon-ho's movie Parasite, you know, won several awards at the Cannes Film Festival recently, and it's definitely going to be up for an Academy Award. And it is beautifully shot. Well, so remember our rating scale. Shock a thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's bad to see. It's junk. I don't recommend it. And for Parasite, it is a shock a thumbs up. If you see this movie, like I said, it is shot visually beautifully. The acting is very good in it. By everyone from Cho Woo-shik to Park So-dam, Kang Ho-sung, Cho Young-jong, Lee Sung-yoon, and Hya Jin Chang all do phenomenal jobs. Basically, the story evolves around Cho Woo-sik's character, who is befriended by his college friend and is basically introduced to an affluent family to teach their eldest daughter English before going into college. He gets the great idea of, and to be paid for this, as his family is terribly poor and struggling to make ends meet. And so he gets the brilliant idea of introducing his sister as a friend of his cousin's, to also work for this family as a tutor for the youngest son of this family. Basically teaching him art. And the family has more than enough money, so it is no problem for them to afford this, whether, they need this or not. And, so the family, Choi Woo-sik's character does not feel, and the rest of his family do not feel bad in any sort of way to kind of take advantage of these people, and thus introduce, they introduce their father as their driver. They get the current driver of, this affluent family fired, so that his father can come in and be their official driver, and eventually so on and so on. They get their mother to become the new housekeeper once they get their housekeeper fired, who had been there even to the previous owners of the house. And so everything is going swimmingly with that, and thus you can believe that this is the movie, why it's called Parasite. Because as we know, parasites live off of another organism. So maybe in, Bong Soon-ho's commentary on society, he's talking about the rich and affluent creating jobs for those who need it. And, the poor, underclass living off of the rich and the affluent. Very much parasites to them. At first it seems like maybe a symbiotic relationship, as, they are helping out this affluent family. Maybe not the greatest way, but they're doing decently. And they are getting a great deal of money in return for it, access to things that they've never had before, beautiful living conditions. They end up staying in the family's affluent, estate while they are away, eating their food, drinking their liquor, using their amenities, living the life that they had always dreamed of, this poor family. That's pretty much it. And that's why the Parasite is the title for this movie. And as usual, director Bong Soon-ho, delivers social commentary on this. Basically, those of the inequalities of the wealthy and the poor class, the poor lower class. Very much so, like he did with Snowpiercer, in addition to environmental issues that hit also in The Host and Snowpiercer. This one, he's mainly dealing with the the disparities between the social economic class of people and how the affluent might look down on the lower class. You know, as there are many, many slights that this affluent family gives to this lower class family working for them, you know, without any second thought or consideration, just because, you know, it's like, hey, we're paying you, you know, we're paying you for your job, do your job, and aren't you getting paid well? So don't worry what I say about you, or, you know, the fact that you stink or you're ugly, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's all good because I'm paying you well. And, you know, and you know, hey, that's part of people's job. You know, you may not like who you work for, who you work with, but you work with them because you want your pay, essentially. And, you know, most of the time you like what you do. And these people, they did like doing what they did, even if sometimes they felt slighted by this couple. All right, so that's all I'm going to say, non-spoiler. Now we'll get into the spoilers, and this is the twist, the Shyamalan, the ding-a-dong like twist that Bong Joon-ho does in this movie. And essentially it is, you know, the housekeeper that they had fired so that, you know, their mother can move in and take over for her to clean up the house of this affluent family. Well, the son and the daughter are doing tutoring business, English and art, and the father is doing the driving duties, also getting the driver fired. We find out that they're not the only ones to have thought about this. The original landlady, or I'm sorry, the original housekeeper had moved her husband into a secret room that only the former owner of the house knew about. So this affluent family had been living there for many years, didn't even know that there was a secret sub-basement, kind of a panic room, but an entire basement filled with amenities that she had moved her husband into. And he had been living there for years. So much so that the housekeeper and her husband, the original housekeeper and husband, don't have a house of their own. They've just expected to live there forever, or at least until they died. And thus, as a shock of being fired by this, you know, unscrupulous plan of this poor family to move their family into this wonderful position, you know, she has no place to go. Her husband is trapped in the basement and can't get out, so he's starving to death. And, you know, essentially, you know, she has to get back in there to free him, but then even so, they have no place to go. And the current family, the low-income family that took over, they don't want them hanging around, so that's where the conflict begins. You know, are they going to be killed, you know, to keep their secret? And thus, that is where things, unfortunately, take that crazy turn that they often do in this kind of situation in his movies. And just like that, things go from kind of a funny, satirical look at social, economic, class differences between, you know, families, people, you know, and you can draw that same conclusion because South Korea is very westernized. You can draw that same kind of conclusion here in the United States. I think it works pretty well, and you could see the same story working out that way over here as well. That they are, you know, forced to make this decision to kill these two people to keep their secret. And of course, you know, those two people have a secret. They find out that this family had them fired and that they're all related and living there, and you know, taking advantage of the affluent family as well. So they have something to hold against them as well. So it becomes that it's like, who's going to kill who first? And that's kind of the twist. Whereas just people who wanted to get along, survive, do the best that they can for themselves and their family, get pushed into these ordinary circumstances that become, oddly enough, extraordinary. And they make bad decisions which end up haunting them forever, as the original housekeeper is killed, her husband becomes angry and starts to kill the other members of the family, and in retaliation of that, the father thus kills the father of the affluent family, kind of in revenge and also out of anger that why did you put us into this situation? Why were you looking down at us when we were helping you? And so that's the gist of it right there. It is a good movie. It did leave me feeling a little bit like how some people had described Joker, as far as, extraordinary events arise out of ordinary events that push people over the edge and to become monstrous. And that's exactly kind of what happens here. So I compare it to a little bit to what I've heard of Joker. I had not seen Joker. But again, it is shot beautifully. It is an interesting story. Definitely with a lot of ups and downs. So it is a shock, a thumbs up. The only bad thing about, Bong Joon-ho's work, or at least what they do in the trailers for this, they build this up. It's like, ooh, the Parasite. And it feels very much like an alien takeover movie, some kind of sickness, apocalyptic kind of movie. Are these guys aliens? Are they taken over by creatures or something? Is this family not really human? It's like, no, it's none of that. And that's what you're expecting to see from these spooky-like trailers, and you don't get to see any of that. It just turns out to be, an ordinary family pushed to extremes, and a series of bad choices develop into worse choices, and lives are destroyed because of it. All right, so that's the only bad thing, and I don't know if the director Bong Joon-ho had done this on purpose, which it feels like he does, because this is kind of his modus operandi for a lot of his trailers to his movies, that there's some twist at the end, and that's the twist. Or if maybe the trailer, company that cut it just kind of, we're going to lean into this a lot. So who knows? But it is well worth seeing. Shaka thumbs up. See it while you can over at any of the consolidated theaters right now. Definitely Kahala and Ward for sure. And hopefully within a week or 2 weeks, it'll go wide to the rest of Regal Cinemas. All right, thank you so much. This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, saying shaka thumbs up for Parasite. Go and see it when and where you can. All right, thank you, and aloha.